Hello. Hello, everyone. How's it going tonight? Welcome, welcome. My name's Justin Waldman, he, him. I'm the artistic director here at Two River Theater. And welcome to tonight's In the Know for The Monsters, a sibling love story by Ngozi Anyanwu, written and directed right here. This is Ngozi. Everyone say hello.
Hi. Thanks for coming.
We'll explain a little bit what we are sitting on and why we are in this configuration. But as I always do, I have the great good joy of being able to embarrass an amazing person with their incredible work and all the things that they've done in their lives, which are, in Ngozi's case, is myriad and in many different ways. And Ngozi is a multi-hyphenate maker of theater. She is a playwright, a director, and an actor. She has performed as an actor at the Pittsburgh Public Theater, Barrington Stage, Rattlestick Theater, the Mark Taper Forum, and has been on TV in shows like Limitless, Deadbeat, and all the Law and Orders, which is fantastic, and then The Deuce on HBO. So she's a fantastic performer. She has her MFA, Master in Fine Arts, from the University of California at San Diego. So she is a master of the arts. But she's also her playwriting work is extraordinary. She just had a performance at Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago with Leroy and Lucy, which is her play there. Her play Good Grief was presented at the Vineyard Theater in New York City and the Kirk Douglas Theater at Center Theater Group in LA, as well as being on the Kilroy's list, which is a beautiful list of plays written by female presenting playwrights. So it's a way to advance advocacy for writers who present as female, which is really an exciting list. And was a semi-finalist for the Princess Grace Award. So it was a beautiful play. Good Grief is stunning. Her play Nike was presented at the National Black Theater, the New Black Festival, in conjunction with the Lark Playwriting Center, and was at the Strand Festival at ACT in San Francisco. And oh God, I cut this out. Homecoming Queen was where?
It was at the Atlantic
At
Theater.
the Atlantic, that's right. That's fantastic. Yeah, and she has commissions from New York University, the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, Two River Theater here, which the Monsters is a product of, and the Atlantic Theater Company and Steppenwolf Theater Company. This production, The Monsters, which was a commission by Two River Theater, is a co-production with Manhattan Theater Club in New York City. So after we're done here, it's going to go to New York and run for 9 weeks in the city. But also, this production, this play has a production on the West Coast in the spring, where it'll be at Berkeley Repertory Theater and then go to La Jolla Playhouse. So this show has 4 productions in this season's calendar year, which is amazing and so exciting for Ngozi. She is just an absolute love. This building has been just filled with joy and wonder and amazement since she's walked through this door. And her spirit is pervasive and permeates every pore of this building. And I can't thank her enough for trusting us with making this play come to life. So everybody, Ngozi Anyanwu.
Thank you.
Oh my God, you do so many things.
So many things.
Oh my God.
I'm so tired.
Most people... And these are really specialized things that most people spend a whole lifetime practicing, and you do them all really, really well.
Thank you.
What is your origin story? How did you get into doing all of these things?
Origin story. I was, your kind of cliche average high school student, I would say. A lot of artists are like, I had like a 1600 GPA and I was a genius and I was going to be a doctor. And I was not. I was very much into theater, into singing, into things, but didn't necessarily have the courage to really commit to the thing. But in middle school, they kind of would visit. I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Ben Salem, born in Trenton, New Jersey, though. And so when I moved to Ben Salem and so just mostly grew up there, the public schools were really nice. And so in middle school, they would kind of drive you to the high school to go see the high schoolers do the musicals and things like that. And I remember very distinctly being in 7th or 6th grade, and they bused us to the high school, and I think they were doing what musical? Do Black patent leather shoes reflect up or something like that. I think it was that musical.
That is a deep cut.
That is a deep cut. And I remember them, there was this short girl who was in the ensemble, who was just really loud and was that's me, And she wasn't the lead, she wasn't the star, but I was oh, I think and I remember the bug kind of hit, but the courage to actually tell my immigrant parents that that's what I wanted to do quelled itself, and then high school kind of happens, and I was like also like an okay athlete, and that was where there was attention to be had. But then I was kind of inching my way to like, where are the drama auditions and where are the musical auditions? And I think it was like 10th or 11th grade. And actually before then I had written poetry. So I had written, but never like drama or narrative or anything for people to say. But I remember like being really into creative writing and poetry. I had run some like state poetry contests. So writing was kind of a love. But then when it came to, we had a thing called Governor School in Pennsylvania, where you kind of like would apply to be in this sort of like elite sort of summer program. And I would apply for those things and just kind of not get in. And I got really discouraged from that rejection. But so I really kind of kept it all to myself. I was like, okay, I'll write, but like I won't tell anybody. And then I'll be in the drama club, but I like won't tell anybody, And then I think by senior year or junior year, I was like, well, I think I'm gonna apply for school. But at that time, I was again a little not courageous, and so I didn't necessarily have the chutzpah to go to the drama teacher to be like, I want to go to school for theater, even go to my guidance counselor. So I almost didn't go to college because I kind of didn't know who to tell my dream, essentially. But I did have like a drama teacher who was passionate enough about theater to like send us all this thing called the Thespian Conference. And the Thespian Conference was kind of like a bunch of like, imagine your like nerdiest drama teachers creating a conference statewide for you to go to like the really nice high school. So I don't know if it was.
I've been to that.
Yeah. So like so they sent us to this one high school that hosted all these different high schools that did musicals and plays and things. And so I kind of not secretly, but I went with that with my drama teacher and a couple other wonderful nerdy drama students. And in that, there was like a contest, like doing a monologue or a song. So I did like a monologue and a song, and Point Park and a couple of schools were the judges for that program. So those places approached me to apply to college.
Got recruited.
Yeah. So it was like Kutztown and like Point Park and all these other colleges. And I think like the only thing I knew about theater school was Juilliard. And I was like, did not have the chutzpah to audition for Juilliard. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, let's see what this Point Park thing is doing. So I really kind of like took the bus by myself. I took the Greyhound. Told my sister, I was like, in case I get murdered, I'm going on the Greyhound to Pittsburgh to do this
That was
thing.
a good idea.
Yeah. So I did that, and I took the Greyhound. And then I got called back, so I had to like take my mom. And my mom's like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, it's like a college recruitment thing. So she's like, okay. So my mom's sitting in this room with all these parents being like, what? I don't remember like, what is this? So, I kind of like secretly, auditioned for theater school essentially, and like showed up with my parents, like, here's my scholarship program. I got into college, and it was the only place I applied. So that's essentially how that all happened. And
so acting was the gateway drug.
Acting was the gateway drug. I mean, writing was the thing, but I had lost my sort of confidence in that. And for some reason, I had it in my head like, well, poetry is not a safe major. I'll go into theater.
Yes.
Very
strong choice.
No, so safe financially. 19.
So how did acting turn into playwriting? Like,
I mean, in school, the school that I went to at Point Park, a lot of the classmates were very like, they were all multi-hyphenate. So there were like upperclassmen who had this thing called Animal Club, and it was kind of like their own like SNL. So they were all like writer, performers, and I was like, oh, like, but it was very much a boys' club. And so I was like, we could do that. So I basically got the girls together in my class to be like, we could do, that's just corny. Like, we could do that. And it was fly at the time, actually. But I was like, they can't let us in because we're freshmen. We can do our own version of that. And I had never really written, like, narrative or scenes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, are we going to write a play? And I was like, no, we'll write some scenes. So we literally held, like, a thing called the Unfinished Works Festival, where we had just classmates go, have you ever wanted to write a play? Do you not have the discipline to finish? Well, let's do a festival of unfinished works. And so that was the beginning of, like, oh, I write, but it took it would be like maybe a decade or so after that before I would finish my first play. I went to grad school at UCSD, and at UCSD I was an acting major still, and still had written, but sort of in a sketch collaborative way. Kind of just didn't have necessarily the discipline or the confidence. I think so much of it was just like getting the confidence to finish something, you know? So I would do things with friends because it was easier and faster and quite frankly more fun to do it with other people. But what happens is that when you make things with other people, you're at the mercy of other people, right? So, you know, I had to
Hell
think,
is.
yeah,
Right?
you know, and so like I would,
Sartre said.
you know, Jean-Paul, yes, that's right, deep cut. Thanks for the deep cuts. And so we had this thing with first generation Nigerian women where we made a sort of similar thing to the Unfinished Works Festival, but you know, wonderful, hard-headed, beautiful Nigerian women, we couldn't all agree on something. And so that kind of disbanded, right? And so for whatever reason, my third year of grad school, I was thinking about my best friend who had passed away when I was in undergrad. And I was just kind of thinking about him and writing about him, embarking on this journey. And before I knew it, I went from like 5 pages to like 10 pages to like 30 pages. And UCSD at the time had a really strong playwriting program and design program, and really it was like a kind of ensemble-based MFA master's intensive program. So I had like 30 or 40 pages and knew enough about playwriting by then. This is now like 13 years ago. Is that right? 2013-ish, 12 years ago. And I had like 30 or 40 pages, and I just kind of got my classmates together, including the playwright at that time, a couple playwrights at that time. And they were all very encouraging, being like, bitch, I think this is a play. Like, keep going. So it was like the validation of my peers that was like, girl, I think, yeah. So I just kept going. And then by the time I graduated my third year in grad school, I had my first draft of Good Greek, which was my first play.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what I love that you're talking about too, and it's something that I literally was talking about with someone who was shadowing me today, is like the idea of like making your own opportunities.
Yeah.
Like in what you were just talking about, like this Unfinished Work Festival, like getting people together, grab my friends and did a thing.
Yeah.
Like that's so much about what this industry is.
Yeah.
Is like there are few opportunities that if you make your own,
that's right.
Like you have a chance to like see if that thing's their thing.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's so amazing. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of hubris.
You know, but also a lot of humility to also put yourself in front of people that you think are better than you to go, what do you think? You know what I mean? Like, do you think this is something, you know? And I don't know if I would have shut down if they would have been like, no. But, you know, I just didn't go to that kind of program. But also, like, I also had my own sort of like, for all the confidence I say I think I didn't have, I also have a sort of a kind of audaciousness to me, you know, that is just kind of like, okay, we'll do it anyway. And there's something about being a Black artist, especially where you know, I went into something that I really loved, but it was the message early, even in pursuing it, was that no one was really waiting for you or making things for you. So that was also quite a kind of early unspoken thing. I went to Point Park and I was one of the few Black students, right? And so also when it came to auditioning for the shows, you'd be like, where do I fit in here? And I don't want to just play a homeless person, right? And I'm Black, but I'm not this specific kind of Black. I don't see myself there, as wonderful as that work is. So it was also just like, I want to do this thing, but I don't actually see the place for myself in. So either it's walk away from that thing or create a lane for myself. Yeah.
And in doing so, right, a lot of your plays come from personal experience. Like people that you know, people are family members. Like how is that personalness and also creating your own opportunities and creating a reflection of yourself on stage? How does that all come together for you?
It's weird now. Like, I don't think the first play was autobiographical, and everything after that is not. Everything else after that is kind of like I think of them as now like dedications. Terrell McCraney has a thing called the Brother Sister Plays. I remember reading those plays when they were published, and I remember reading like the first like dedications, like for my sister, for my mother, for my whatever. And so for me, I was like, oh, I like that, because for me, when I would start an idea of a play, I'd be like, but why am I writing this? Because I can maybe now at this level or, you know, experience probably start the first 30 pages of anything, but never finish, you know, that's still a thing. My attention span post-COVID is like crap, you know? So, but the thing that keeps me going is like, who am I writing this play for specifically? Like, I'm actually kind of almost always writing one play for one audience member, and then assuming that most of us have a similar kind of experience, even though you're not specifically in this body. Like, I think of them as like little personal dedications, and that's what helps me finish.
In that way, that something more personal is more universal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great segue into the Monsters, right?
Yeah.
So then who is the audience of one of the Monsters?
I mean, it's very much for my big brother. It's very much like a love letter to my big brothers. And he used to be an MMA fighter. He's a retired MMA fighter. And
Can we, just for those who don't know, MMA is mixed martial arts, which is
punching, kicking, wrestling, essentially. There's blood. There's mouthpieces. There's lots of violence in it. It's very nerve-wracking to watch if that's not your bag. But my brother, used to play football, and then that didn't necessarily work out for him, and he fell into a sort of deep depression. And then he found jiu-jitsu, and then found MMA, and so he found it later in life. But the thing that I was always, me and my brother are quite close. Me and my whole family are quite close. And the thing that I always found interesting in watching him from afar, he's the only boy in our family, and he's a big guy, and he big soft heart, and so we would be having a lot of beautiful deep conversations, and I just kind of always remembered like the day he turned into an adult, and always was wonderful. Always wondered if he saw it. So we always just had these really deep conversations about that. And hanging out with his fellow fighters, I was always like very interested in the contradictory nature of people who like do this brutal thing. But to me, when I would hang out with them, were fucking cream puffs, right? In a beautiful way. That sort of just like dichotomy of, this is a really hard body, but this is a really soft heart. And for me, I really wanted to write a dedication to that, as someone also with muscles, right? And to sort of like lift the curtain of like, we're so turned off sometimes by someone's language or the presentation of someone that I wanted people to spend time with these bodies that we're not taught to empathize with, right? Because of the brutality, because of the skin color, because of, because you also assume that they have it, right? That they can take care of themselves, that they don't necessarily deserve like care, and that tenderness is not there. So for me, I really was interested in like how to put forth tenderness through this very brutal thing. But also like that, I also tend to write about artists, and I was like, martial arts and mixed martial arts is still an art form. And so I was really interested in like, oh, what would it be to sort of tackle artistry outside of what I do?
Yeah, that it's in the artistry of it is so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, like the detailed work, the dedication, the discipline that it takes to master this craft.
That's right.
Is the same of acting or
That's
playwriting.
right.
Like you have to be so committed
That's right.
to the process before you can even attempt to get to a product.
That's right. And it hurts, like literally and figuratively, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was really like I identified so much with them when I would hang out with them, and So I was just like, of course, and yeah.
Can you give us like just for those? How many people have seen the show so far? Okay, one. Can you give us a little overview of what the plot of the Monsters is about?
Sure. I really wanted to write. I kind of write love stories, and I really wanted to write a different kind of love story. So I wanted to write a sibling love story. So the play is essentially about Big, who is a fighter who is kind of past his prime, who is reintroduced with his sister that he has an estranged relationship with, and hijinks ensue, and he kind of turns into a fighter. And so it's kind of about this love story about reconnection.
Hijinks.
Fighting hijinks ensue. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit, because this play was a commission by Two River Theater. It was commissioned by John Diaz and Michael Hurst, who were the previous artistic and managing directors here. So when I arrived 3 years ago and I saw a list of people that were under commission, I saw Ngozi was on the list, and I did a little jig because we knew each other from San Diego,
Right.
and I'm a huge fan of her work. And then can you kind of explain maybe what a commission is and how that came to pass?
Sure. Commission's essentially like when a theater is kind of dig in your work, maybe because they've seen your work previously, and they go, hey, like, come hang out with us, and we'll give you some resources to maybe start a thing that either, like, we would like to maybe write about this thing, or what would you like to write about? So they kind of give you some time, some resources to do what you need to do to finish a play. And if they like it, they do. And if they don't, they say, thanks so much for spending time with us. Which is really important to say, because not all theaters actually do your commissions, This is like my 5th time being commissioned. This is the first year that's actually done my commission.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah, so the other theaters have done like other, so they'll kind of like release it to other people or hold on to it. But so this is the first time I've actually like had a commission done and like had a theater commit to like doing it. So
that's fantastic.
Well,
yeah. Hey.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah. So in the development process for this piece, I have to say is one of the most unique and super cool things that I've ever been around. Would you mind like relating the story about how it came to pass? Like when we started in this very room, 18 months ago, 2 years ago almost?
Yeah, maybe it was 23, maybe.
Yeah,
2023. Yeah, so I'd been commissioned like in 2020, 2021, but I was like, I want to write something about fighters, and just kind of didn't have anything for them. And then 21, 22 comes up, and Dennis is like, do you got anything? I'm like, I got 8 pages, that's all I got. And usually when I say yes to a commission, I kind of have already started, like, part of the way through, but I've been doing more like generative work, like kind of starting from scratch, which is a little bit more anxiety inducing, but we'll see, right? And so I kind of was like, I got 8 pages, and they were like, well, what do you need? And I was like, I would like a fighter, and I would like an actor, a male and a woman, a man and a woman, and that's kind of all I knew. And so the kismet that is kismet, or whatever higher power that you believe in, Sam here? Sam gone? Yeah.
She left.
Sam is our general manager, the general manager of this theater. Sam had actually been taking jiu-jitsu with a former UFC fighter, which is like, huh? What do you mean? And she was like, would that be helpful? I was like, yeah, bro. So, yeah, a few days before rehearsal starts, I talked to Sarge, and Sarge's like, hey, can I bring my sister? She's going to school for like theater at Temple or something. It'd be helpful to have her. I'm like, yeah, anyone can hang around. I don't know what I'm doing yet. And, I swear to God, I'm talking with the actors. I have like 10 pages, and I'm like, all I know is they're about 10 years apart. They haven't seen each other a long time. One becomes a fighter. That's all I know. But maybe, we'll talk to Sarge, and like more pages will come. And in walks Sarge, brolic MMA fighter about my height, with her sister, a little bit taller, who she also happens to be training as a fighter, who's about 12 years apart. And I was like, record, And I went from kind of 8 pages to like 50 pages that week. And then Dennis invited me the following year, and then it was like, hey, let's make some more pages. And I don't know how, but we spent another week together. And we eked out what is essentially the first draft of that play in that second workshop. So it was very much like having the good fortune and good luck to kind of be around Sarge and her sister and their really beautiful relationship, and being like, the validation of like, this is a story that feels good and feels worth telling.
Yeah, and just for those who don't know, Sajara Eubanks is Sarge.
Yeah.
She is a former #1 contender in the UFC. She was in the lightweight women's division. She fought all over the world. She fought at Madison Square Garden. Like, this is someone who is no joke in this business.
Yeah, and she had happened to have kind of retired from the UFC maybe a few weeks prior to that, and was kind of looking for her next stage of life. So it's been really great just having her consult. She's been consulting on the play ever since.
Yeah. And amazingly, too, in great fortune is that there have been several other steps of development for the show. That it was in New York Stage and Film. It was at Berkeley Rep's ground floor.
Yeah.
And then we also got a major grant for the show through the Edgerton Foundation. And I think, like, just to kind of brag on Ngozi for a little bit, like, that is kind of unprecedented that one play kind of hits all of those different development processes around the country. These are some of the most competitive new play development moments in the country, and to be in all of them in 1 year is pretty amazing. And I think it was like how powerful this play reads off the page, and then that's how we kind of got into conversation with Manhattan Theater Club.
Yeah. Manhattan Theater Club had sat in on the reading that we had done here at Two Rivers. Nikki at the time was the associate, and Liz Carlson, who was at New York Stage and Film, was wanting to continue to help me develop the play, and I happened to finish the first draft there. And so she's like, do you mind if I bring Nikki from Manhattan Theater Club? I'm like, it's not finished, but yeah, anyone can come. I don't care. And I happened to have finished the draft, and so Nikki got very excited when she had sat in on that reading, was like, hey, can we get in on this party? And I'm like, yeah, bro, please, y'all work it out. So that's kind of how the co-pro happened. It's been really great ever since. Yeah.
And also just, I know we kind of drop a lot of like insidery terms.
Sure.
So a co-production is when two theaters come together to produce one production of the play and then present it to their own audiences in different places. So this production, which when you come and see it, there's a set and costumes and these two actors. We rehearsed it here. We built it here. We're sitting in the rehearsal hall where it was rehearsed, and in this play, it'll all go in a box and get shipped to New York, and the exact same stuff will be on stage in New York and run for the Manhattan Theater Club audience in January, February, March into April.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic. It's a way that like different theaters can come together to stretch resources, but also enfranchise and lift up one artist at the same time. So that's really exciting.
I like it. Yeah.
So I kind of alluded to earlier what we are sitting on. What are we sitting on?
So we are sitting on the benches that we've been rehearsing for the last 4 weeks. So this is we basically had them built like consulted by Sajara Eubanks, a kind of wrestling jiu-jitsu mat floor. So they've been throwing themselves around and wrestling on this floor for the past 4 weeks, which is very similar to what our set looks like. So this is what we're at. And it's no shoes allowed set, which is why we're in our socks. Yeah.
So what's really neat, so there's an inch of foam here, and then but underneath is a sprung floor, which is super neat. It's actually like 2 pieces of plywood sandwiched with these kind of like spongy things sandwiched in between that needed to be like routed out so that it all fits level. But basically, it's like it's like a trampoline.
Yeah.
So that when you land on it, it gives, and you don't land on the floor and hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But what's so cool is that this show all happens. There's so much MMA, and they're always falling on the ground that they needed a rehearsal in here, and then also one in the stage. So we built this twice.
Yeah. And it's been really great. And so they kind of come in here sometimes a little early before the show starts when the theater's not ready, so that they can rehearse, and just so it's safer on their bodies as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you're also directing the show. We talked all about your one hat. Let's maybe like switch hats. For a
this
second.
hat's a new hat. It's a plastic hat. It's a little birthday cap hat, and soon it'll be a big girl hat. But
like the little thing with the
it's like a little clown hat
on
right
top.
now. Yeah. It's a new hat. It's a new hat.
What is that? What is that? Internal conversation been like for you?
Sometimes people watch the external conversation. I'm usually in the corner like talking to myself, and it's like, what's happening? And my assistant's like, oh, the playwright is having a conversation with the director. So I'm just like, that didn't go right. What happened? You know what I mean? Do I need to change that? Should I change that? But it's a little schizophrenic, especially since I always tell you, and even Nikki, I'm like, I'm for the most part a confident playwright and a confident actor, and so the director it's a new hat, and so I always feel like the directors that I love, that I usually work with, the job is to protect the play, right? And so it's an interesting conversation that I'm having with myself and the artists about how to protect the play, but also I'm a deeply sort of working on sort of radical collaboration, which is not like a, when I was a younger playwright, I was a my way or the highway playwright. I'd be like, treat, new playwrights like Shakespeare, and Shakespeare like a new play. So I'd be like, I'm leaving the room for 2 weeks, and this guy do what the heck I wrote. And the older that I've gotten, and since also working in TV, I'm much more collaborative. So I'm much more, I hear the thoughts that I even bristle against, and I go, oh, what is it to change that line? What is it to kind of let it flow? What is it for them to sort of, because I am a really actor first person, what is it for it to feel comfortable in that actor's body, even though this is exactly how I would like it to be said, and then what does that even mean, right? And so once it goes into, I am a believer that you got to give something away, but the director is like, I got to protect your play, I gotta protect your play. And when you're in the same body, it's like short circuit, beep, boop, boop, boop. So that's kind of how the process has been, right? Because it's kind of like, you gotta let the artist have their process, and I'm artist too. But it's interesting. It's been a really interesting process of collaboration, learning how to stand up for yourself and your work, because usually my directors stand up for my work. And so it's been interesting being like, no, this is what it is. This is what it is. I know you have that impulse. That's a great impulse. We're still going to do it like this. Or, ooh, that's better than what I thought. Okay, okay, you can have it. You can have it, So it's been a very, interesting and humbling and very it's been so much growth. I feel like a caterpillar constantly growing, and I'm like, that can't feel good if you're a caterpillar, because it's just that's all the growth I can stand for the next 4 weeks,
Oh my God,
But it's been great. All that to say, it's been great.
You've been doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
With both hats,
Yeah.
the large and small.
Yeah.
Also, we talked a little about the MMA, right, and the mixed martial arts, and we talked about Sarge.
Yeah.
But how literally is the MMA worked into the show?
I mean, it's quite literal, I think of structurally, I was like, how do we move this play and make it really physical? I think of there's, other physical plays that I see so much in New York. I've been in New York for about 20 plus years. And so I think of a play like the Royale, right? That is so structurally, it moves like this. And even when you write the movement, but I didn't necessarily want to do that. For me, this is an emotionally driven play, and I really want the choreography to be kind of freer for the interpretation of the choreographer director. So what we did with Sajara and our fight choreographer and our choreographer, right, was think of the elements of ferociousness and quite frankly ugliness, and the idea that people kind of see MMA and don't think of it as an art form, right? And so we kind of took it in this structure and broke it down in 3 levels. We're like, no, there are parts of the time where we break it down where it looks like beautiful art. And then there's some time where you look at it and you're like, that just kind of looks like people rolling around, And then there's some parts where you look at it and that looks freaking brutal, right? And so we really just took this is what you think, This is how I actually see it. And this is maybe how I want, if a fighter walks into that room, I want them to also feel honored. So that's kind of how we tried to break down how the fight looks in the plays. Yeah.
I mean, it is a brutal dance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
amazing. I think it's a really beautiful way of expressing it, in that there is so much beauty in it, but it's inflicting so much harm.
That's right.
The outcome.
And it's and that fighting is the love language of this play, right? And what we're measuring is how much, too much, throughout the process. But essentially, this is how they love each other. And if you can just sit with us for the hour and a half plus, you might love them too, hopefully, as much as I love them. Yeah.
So you talk about love, which I think is such a big part of what the show is. But what are the other themes of it that you want people to walk away from and carry with them as they go home?
I think there's we deal with addiction in the play, we deal with resentment, and we deal with reconnection. So much of this is about that they talk with their fists, right? And how this is how they know how to speak, right? And so for me, love kind of is the only thing I really want you to really think of. Love is the strongest choice / the hardest choice, and if we can maybe kind of get through being brutal with each other, maybe we can be kind to each other. So it's if I got to fight you to get you to listen to the fact that I freaking love you, cool. You know what I mean? Or maybe the punch is maybe that's my form of love, right? Maybe me spending time with you and yelling at you isn't me. Maybe that's me trying to tell you I love you, and that there are all different forms of doing that. So that's what I hope people take away from it. And then all my shows are about Black people. All my shows are about Black bodies. And, the heartbreaking thing about my brother growing up in his body was the fact that once he hit a growth spurt at 12, he was no longer looked at as a kid. Right? And I saw it definitively. And at that age, I could not articulate it. Right? And to be now grown-ups and for you to witness these bodies, again, that you're not taught to empathize with, or maybe you're taught to empathize with up here, right? But maybe if you could look at these 2 bodies, and know that there's a lot going on internally, and there's a big reason why anybody that has to be that physically strong, that armor is protection, you know, and to empathize with that protection, with that armor. We all have a form of armor that we kind of put on, and so that's just one form of armor that they put on.
Yeah, and I think that is so beautifully rendered in the piece, like so beautifully rendered. I want to open up to some questions before we have to wrap up. Would anybody like to ask anything? Yes.
I had seen that there was a choreographer and the fight choreographer, and I'm sure that I'll know in an hour when I see it, but I was so shocked that there was a choreographer.
Oh, sure.
So I didn't understand why there were both.
Sure. I mean, I actually wasn't sure what I wanted to use first. Justin was like, hey, do you want a fight choreographer or a choreographer? Maybe you have and I was like, I don't know. I always thought, well, just need a fight choreographer. But when we really thought about the idea that we wanted to beautify the fighting and make it beautiful, I was like, we want a choreographer. We want a choreographer to look at that, study that form, and then see if we can extract that and turn it into a kind of dance. So that's why we had a choreographer for the majority of our movement. And then for a fight choreographer, whenever the bodies come into contact with anything dangerous, you just want somebody who can teach the actors how to protect their bodies. Yeah, but they also choreographed some fights in there too.
And safety. And this was a piece of the development puzzle. We did a week-long workshop at an MMA gym in June where we brought in Sarge and
Ricky
the
and
two
Jerry.
actors that are in the show.
Yeah.
The choreographer, the fight choreographer, the assistants, and then fighters, like other fighters that are professional fighters.
Yeah, that just kind of came in. We had one actor who was like, I need a fighter who's anatomically the size of Oak, right? And anatomically the size of Anya, because Anya is 6 feet tall, right? So we have two actors, male and woman, who are 6 feet tall, that we could sort of like generate and be like, can we tell this story? So for me, the choreographer was really important to beautify the fight.
Yeah. Excellent.
Any other question? Yes.
Hi. Thanks so much for all this. This is such a great talk. I was just wondering how you knew the actors were going to be perfect for their roles.
You never know per se, but because sometimes you pick a great actor and is it a great personality? We don't know, right? Or so you're always kind of betting on it. But because the play was very much based off my brother. My brother's a big guy, and so I was like, who do I know that is that size? And Oak Akurete, I've known Oak for now maybe 10 plus 15 years of Hamilton fame, Hercules Mulligan, but we've known each other for a very long time. So when we were workshopping in the early processes, I was like, hey, are you available to do a workshop? And he wasn't available to do the first workshop because he was doing something, some big deal thing. And so when we had the second workshop, I was like, are you available for the second workshop? And he was like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah. And I was like, it's not done. I don't have a draft done. So he sat in on that workshop. And then a good friend of mine, Kara Young, had done it of like multiple Broadway fame. And so they had actually workshopped it. And Kara's this big and Oak is that big. And there's a version of the show that also is really beautiful that way. But when I had seen that reading and they just sat and read it, I was like, that's a really beautiful version. But I was like, I'm interested in what it would be to also have a woman be that size, just for this production. I don't really specify in the writing of it their actual size, right? A little bit for his character, because I think it's about his blackness and his size. But she, I think, can be any size. But for the vision, since I was directing, I was like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to have them be the same size, and could I find that? And I remember seeing Anya in a few shows. She had done a play called Chicken and Biscuits on Broadway, and I didn't know her very well, but I had seen her in a number of plays, and she had workshopped at New York State and Film. I kind of had asked the casting director, like, hey, can we get this actor in process? And they had worked together in process, and they got on very well. And I was like, oh, I think this will work. And then we auditioned Anya later throughout the process, and she won out in the audition, and it's been great ever since. So that's kind of how we found Anya. But Oak is someone that I've known for a long time. And so it's like, and we've never worked together. So like, let's see if it works, And so far it works. So far, I hope he says the same thing. But, so far so good. But that's how we found Oak and Anya for this process.
Would you ever direct yourself in your own?
I don't know that anyone would let me direct myself in my own play, but don't think I didn't think about it for this play.
But wait.
But wait, I will be doing the Monsters on the West Coast. But it will not be my production. It will be a separate director directing the production of this play somewhere else. So I will be starring in the Monsters as Little at Berkeley Rep in La Jolla Playhouse in April through like April and June. But as far as directing myself in a play, I will say, not unless it's like one person show. Like I will say what I've learned about this process, though it's been great, is that, and I think I could do it again, direct and write. I don't think I'm doing a bad job. I can use an extra nap or so. But I will say, the process very much is about care for me. And so taking on a lot, you take on a lot of weight, you take on a lot of responsibility. And there's always so much I think one should actually take just for their own mental health and fatigue. So I don't think I would ever like write, direct, and star in something if I didn't have to. A lot of times that happens because of just resources and things like that. But I'm like, nah, someone take care of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like she deserves, a mommy, an auntie, And so when I'm acting, particularly, I do like to have a director. There's a few collaborators that I really love because as an actor, you really need to feel cared for, I think. Taking on too much can sort of like, I think, impede the process. Smart or not, whether you're good at it or not.
Wearing 3 hats would just be ridiculous.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I got to give something to somebody, like I can't make them all jealous. But, stay tuned. Like in 2 years, it might just be like, but, I can use a check, you know what I mean?
You're a job creator.
Yeah, we're a job creator. We want to create jobs for like other people. But yeah.
I have a question.
Let me go in the back and then I'll come back to you.
Have you ever read a book and thought, I can make this into a play?
Oh yeah, there's actually a book that I'm trying to get the rights to right now that I'm having a heck of a time getting the rights to because now if it's a well-known book, like every publishing company has it bought up. But yeah, so I absolutely have, and I've been approached with some. Sometimes though, it has to feel right. I don't tend to take on a lot of new things, like a commission that like someone wants me to write of theirs because I kind of have to feel it here. But there's a couple that I'm like, ooh, that would I think I could write a kick-ass play of that. But sometimes you have to like go and like buy the rights and it's like a whole thing. And I'm like, that, it's a lot. And I got other deadlines, so yeah.
That part is not fun. Yes.
This is just a question about, in general, as a playwright, are you usually a part of like there with the production and the director? Or is it like someone, gives you a check and you send the play and they do it and you're not like actually on site?
For most of my plays, I'm pretty hands-on, especially for like a premiere, just because I'm just too much of a control freak for that. There's a lot of playwrights that are like, they do it, they come into rehearsal every once in a while, they're a little bit more introverted, and they're like, cool, you guys are on track, peace out. But for me, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you saying? What do you got? But also I like to hear what the actor's thoughts, because sometimes I want it to feel really like they would say it or like it's in their mouth. So I'll be there a lot for the workshop process, but once they're in like rehearsals, I also think sometimes you gotta leave the room and you gotta, actors are wonderful, but they wanna please. So sometimes they'll be like, oh, mommy's not listening to me, maybe daddy will listen to me. And daddy don't listen. So sometimes, for my Steppenwolf play, I'm like, ooh, free trip to Chicago. I know this play, it's nipped in the bud, and I'll listen to a question from afar and come back with a rewrite, But that process, Woye Timpo is a director I work with a lot. I trust her a lot, so I tend to not be around a lot for that particular process because I just trust her. So I'll leave, and she'll bother me being like, hey, they have questions about something, you might want to come in, or be like, hey, do you want to look at this rewrite? Or I'll work with the dramaturg. So, but for the most part, I'll come in, I like want to hang out and watch the process. But if I'm not acting in it, if I'm just writing it, sometimes I'm like, no, you guys got to go and have your thing and kind of not worry about pleasing me, if that makes sense. So I tend to be like, I'll be there once a week.
Have any of the shows that you've previously written, are they in licensing or they've had second productions
Yeah, Good Grief is in licensing. They've had a couple smaller productions. So we did it at CTG at Kirkland Douglas, and then the following year we did it off Broadway at the Vineyard. But then after that, it's had smaller productions in like smaller theaters, but I haven't seen those. My alma mater did it. My undergrad actually did it.
Cool.
Homecoming Queen has not had another production, but I'm working on it.
Really?
Yeah. we just
Shocking.
yeah, it was like sold out and all that type of stuff. But I think
wild.
because it's specifically a very African play,
Yeah.
there's music in it that we never also like licensed and orchestrated. So I think they maybe just don't know how to do it. But I'm writing a trilogy of that, so maybe when that happens, it'll be all whatever. Leroy and Lucy, we did it at Steppenwolf just last year, and so we haven't had a second production of that, but it's not licensed yet. And then Last of the Love Letters we did at the Atlantic in 2021, and that's been licensed in a theater, smaller theater called Crowded Fire in San Francisco. Did the second production of that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm dropping all these terms today. Licensing means like once the play is written, a publishing house or a basically a clearinghouse for plays will pick it up and then have it, and then you can call them up and get the rights to do it, and they'll send you a script, and then you can perform it, and the playwright can or can't come, or if they want to or not. But it basically is the way that, like if you were going to do a show at your community theater, you call up Samuel French, and they give you the rights to do the show. You don't have to go through the artist's agent. It's a big clearinghouse to be able to perform a play legally. Which is, nice, and give money to the person who wrote it.
We appreciate money.
Yes. Passive income through licensing. It's very nice.
Anybody else? Yes.
How much, if at all, has the play changed during the preview week?
I don't during the preview week. It's changed in like pacing and like lighting and design. We haven't really changed like any lines, but there's just been like how the thing moves. Like music stuff has changed, and a little bit of choreography has been kind of shortened. And I imagine it'll also just change. Tomorrow's the day that we lock the show, but because it's a new play process, and I am like giving them all the things and toppling them with that in the beginning, I imagine that the play will just feel different from me watching it tonight to when I watch it at closing, because it's all about them now. Now it's given, after tomorrow, it's really theirs, and I give it away to them. And so I imagine it'll feel faster and deeper and what have you than when you watch it today, than if you were to come back on the 23rd when they close here. Then also different when they come back to New York and they've now had a little bit of time with the play and they have it in their hearts in a different way, or maybe they got thoughts and like, Ngozi, are we sure about this line, or are we sure about this thing that we cut, can we bring it back? Or I'm like, no, that's gone, let's cut that actually. So I feel like it hasn't changed hugely, and then I feel like it has, even from the first preview. I feel like from Invited Dress to the first preview, we changed a lot of stuff. From the first preview to today was a Gremlin day where nothing went right, and then but it still felt like deep and beautiful in a lot of ways. And tonight, now that they've been humbled, I imagine that tonight will be a kick-ass show. We just had like a little like punching bag mishap that happened earlier today that made them go, ugh. Which then makes me go, knowing that as an actor, they're probably going to be like, we're gonna kick this show's butt tonight. So, and this one it's a hard one. It's a really sort of emotionally driven show. So I imagine that each show will feel just a hair different because they're still getting their feet under it. There's a lot to do in the show.
And physically draining show, because they basically do a HIIT workout all the way through the show. Yeah. So they're going to burn some calories. So as you said, you give the show away to them. We need to get you out of here to give the show to you for this evening. Thank you so much for your time, Ngozi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. The show opens fully this weekend on Friday and Saturday and runs through the 23rd of November. And we're so excited to have you here tonight. I hope you enjoy the show if you're seeing it. If not, please come back and check us out. And thank you again for your support of Two River Theater. And thank you to Ngozi for her amazing play and her amazing spirit.
Thank you.
And thank you to our amazing staff, Dan and Hannah and Emma, who put all this whole stuff together. It's fantastic. Thank you for making it happen.
Thank you.